Hi, I'm Lizzie,
And I'm Brenda.
and welcome back to Small Step Society. This is episode 10, Defining Success.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Hey guys.
Hello.
It's been a long time since it's been just us and you. But
Yes,
we're back.
but welcome back to a little standalone episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As always, song of the moment, weekly segment. Let's get into it.
My song of the moment will come as no shock again. It's from
Musical.
another musical called Vanities. Okay, so the song is called Let Life Happen. But what's cool about this musical is that a UMich alum wrote it.
Oh,
Yes, I
Ooh.
know.
that's cool.
He composed the songs, and the current School of Music, Theater, and Dance students, a couple of them are throwing this musical. Like, people are directing it. They're like,
Oh, wow.
and the performance is on December 8 and 9, I believe. So that's how I heard about it. But it's actually really good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
And it deals with
Fascinating.
like 60s like high school girls, 3 girls.
Uh-huh.
And like it's their senior year. They're like on the verge of going to college, but they're popular. They're cheerleaders. I don't know. It's very interesting, very cool. So,
That's cool. That is really cool.
what's your song of the moment?
My song is Superstition by John Bryant. I don't have anything to say about it. I don't know. It's a good song. I like it. I've listened to it quite a few times.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know. I feel like every week I have a different genre of music, which is both good and bad. People are always like, I don't like when people when people are like, what are your taste in music? And you're just like, oh, everything. But that's literally me.
No, but I feel like that's good.
Yeah, it keeps things.
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Because like I'm over here standing my ground in musical theater. And
Yeah.
like it's good to like,
No, our end of the season playlist will literally be musical theater song, random genre. Musical theater song, random genre.
a little bit of Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Musical theater.
Yeah.
Yes. But it'll be good.
Yeah.
It'll be a good mix of literally everything.
Literally
right?
everything you could ever want.
Yeah.
And stuff you don't want, probably. Anyway, more importantly, in case you didn't know, I'm from Texas. And guess what?
What?
Yesterday? No. Maybe it was today. Shoot. I don't know. I don't know time, guys. Texas Rangers won the World Series.
Whoa.
It's been a long time coming.
Really? Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
But, even if they hadn't won, I feel
Mhm.
like it would have been a successful run because they've been trying for so long and they got so
Yeah.
far finally.
Yeah,
And then
seriously.
they won. But,
Wait, that's so exciting.
I know.
We should like celebrate.
Yeah, well, I mean, we kind of are because today we're talking about success.
Whoa.
Whoa.
That's a crazy segue, man.
It really was.
Yeah. So let's like get into it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I hope we strike a home run with this.
Oh. That's pretty good.
Watch me just throw in random baseball terminology throughout the episode, even though I know absolutely
Yeah,
nothing.
we can start watching. We can watch Sandlot tonight.
True.
I think I'm gonna start this episode off by defining success. So Merriam-Webster defines it as a degree or measure of succeeding.
Really helpful.
Yes. When I first read it, I was like, "What? That's not."
That's not helpful.
Nope. And then their second definition is favorable or desired outcome, which I guess gives a little more explanation, but
All
it's
I'm
still
gonna
not
say
great.
is they did not succeed with that definition.
Yeah, seriously, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess if we want a more like real life definition or something that's like comes from a human
Yeah.
more than just like a really robotic definition, I think there's this quote that I've liked a lot throughout my years as a human. And it's by the American basketball coach John Wooden. And he wrote, "Success is peace of mind that is the direct result of self-satisfaction and knowing you did your best to become the best that you are capable of being."
Mm-hmm.
Nope, capable of becoming. But I think that really speaks to me a lot because I think a huge reason, and we kind of talked about this when we talked about self-love and everything, but like a huge reason why people have lower self-esteem is because they see success as like this, it's either like it's a very binary thing. It's either
Mhm.
success or failure, and I don't think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can be successful maybe by social standards, like a billionaire or something. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean that you're satisfied with yourself.
Right.
And I feel like success has such a positive connotation that it must mean that you should feel satisfied with yourself if you are
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote successful. So I really like that quote. And I think I've related a lot to it in my years
Mm.
as a human.
Mhm.
Yeah. What does success mean to you? Because I feel like my definition was very like externally influenced
Mm.
because it was a quote. But
I'm actually not sure what my definition of success is, because I think it does depend on like where you are in the moment, like what situation you're put in, because like success is highly individual and subjective. It means different things to different people, like different things go into it. It is rooted in your values and like what you believe. So yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I guess long answer short, I have no idea.
yeah. But I mean, I'm sure once we get more into the conversation, we
Mhm.
might have a better idea of success. And I feel like success, because it's such a spectrum and it does mean different things to people, like I don't think you could ever really like summarize that. I also think success
Mhm.
is like partly just like a feeling.
Yeah.
Like, you know when you're successful, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you feel that a little more by the end of this episode,
Yes.
because we're too hard on ourselves sometimes.
Yeah.
So how do we find that definition of success?
Well,
Well, introspection. Is that what we're going to say? Duh. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, but more specifically, I guess if you were to introspect and figure out the definition of success, I think a good place to start would be figuring out what you value.
Mm-hmm.
Because success is an success is an all-encompassing thing. Like, it relies so much on figuring out what your goals are,
Mm-hmm.
but then how do you know what your goals are unless you know what you value? So
Right.
first step, figuring out what you value, figuring out your morals, your priorities, like how different things in your life stack up against each other.
Mm-hmm. And like stemming off of that is like, what is your goals? Personal, professional, what are they? Now that you kind of thought about what you value, what does that mean?
Yeah, like how do you enact it in real life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like ideal lifestyle, types of relationships with family, friends, others, financial versus social status.
Mm-hmm.
I say all of these like specific things when talking about personal professional goals because I feel like, especially for me, and I've tried to get out of this mindset and it's really hard because, you know, we grow up like kind of in that educational system. But like, I feel like success, at least growing up and probably into your 20s, is so rooted in like academics and like
Mhm.
professional validations, like getting that promotion, like
Mm-hmm.
getting a job, getting a promotion, all getting, oh my gosh, yeah, like getting all of that,
Mm-hmm.
graduating. But it's more than that because
Yeah.
like I said at the beginning of the episode, you're not just going to be happy just because you get that promotion. You're probably working long hours, and if you don't have anything else to support that, are you really successful? Do you
Right.
feel successful?
And I think it was really good that you mentioned the ideal lifestyle, types of relationships you want, and like the financial versus social status, because those are common motivators of success, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good to just address.
Thanks.
Now that we've talked about how we can start to define success, I think it's also important to look at what influences our definition of success.
Mhm.
And I think the most common thing is like family, also
Mhm.
peers. I think social media plays a pretty big role now
Mhm.
as well. But these can all like positively or negatively affect what your definition of success is and like how you feel throughout the journey.
Yeah, I think it's a very like socio-cultural
For sure.
influence because there's both like, and I mean like the cultural part is family and all of that, but it's also society at the same time because
Yeah.
I mean they are a part of your environment.
And I think family is a very big influence because that's where you start learning. Like the
Yeah.
first things you learn are from your parents, from your family members.
Yeah.
And it's like the smallest social group that you turn to. So, yeah, you're more likely to think how other people think.
Yeah, and also not only are you more likely to think what the people around you think, but
Mhm.
especially when it comes to your family, I feel like those are like the people you care, like their opinion you care about the most.
Oh, for sure.
So like when you're growing up, like if you're in a sports team or something, like at the end of the day you care like what your family thinks about that, I feel like. And
Mhm.
so your success can, I think, originally be embedded a lot in whatever your family thinks about you, and that can be a good or bad thing depending on how supportive they are.
Yes. But that kind of goes along with peers as well, just because you are around them besides your family.
Yeah.
Whether it be classmates, friends, whatnot.
Yeah, especially like in school, like once you start even like elementary school, that's like 8 hours of your day right there,
Mhm.
just spent around other people.
Yeah.
And that can also be really good because they come from different families, so they have completely different ideas of success and like different ways of like, I guess not like rating others, but like perceiving others
Mhm.
that can be completely different from yours.
Mhm.
And of course, they like, I feel like they do share that, especially like when you're on a sports team or like
Yeah.
something like that. Like that can really change your perception of success.
Mhm. And like the common phrase is like hang out or like spend time with the people that you want to be like,
Yeah.
right? Because you're so affected by your peers and people around you.
Mhm.
There's a study from U Chicago that I briefly read and I just wanted to talk about, is that they did a study on peer groups who are persistent. So they would randomly assign the subject to a peer group, and they did some measurement statistical analysis, and they found that if the people that the subject surrounds themselves are persistent, then they do academically better. They perform better.
Like if you have if you have people around you more often, or
If
like
you
the
have-
same group.
If you have the
Okay.
same
Okay.
group that like are supporting you and like
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
mhm.
This is kind of related. I don't really know. It were just sparked like, I'm taking a personality psychology class. I feel like I've talked about it before. But there was a study, or it's not even a study, but like there's different types of data, and two of those are like self-report versus informant. So self-report is like if you were to take like a personality test or something, and then informant is like your peers, like your family or like
Mhm.
your friends, like taking that same test about you. And they talk a lot about how like self-report data can be good and bad because there's like nobody who knows you better than yourself, but at the same
Mhm.
time, like the informants have a perception of you that like it's so important to data because it influences you yourself. Point being is that like there's just a lot of scientific research showing that your personality is so heavily influenced by the people around you
Mhm.
to the point where they might know your like how you think better than you know yourself.
Oh.
So it's like
mhm.
almost like a subconscious thing, like a subconscious process that happens in your mind. So even if you think you maybe have an idea, like relating it back to the success conversation, because I feel like we got away from it a little, but like even if you think you have an idea of success, you probably aren't fully accurately perceiving it, because I think a
Mhm.
lot of like the emotions that come along with success and come along with failure are subconscious things. I don't know, like in my experience, I feel like I've done really well on something. Like let me just take grades because they're like a really easy example to
Mhm.
talk about. But like, say I got a 92 on something. Even though that's a really good grade, that's an A minus, I guess, in college. But like an A, I've like had thoughts being like, this is bad. Like I need to do better, and I don't really know why. And I think that is influenced by peers without me knowing it.
Mhm.
That was a lot of information that I said that didn't really correspond with each other. But
No, but I think they all like weave into the fact that peers really affect how you define success.
yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. And I think that's why it's so important, basically, to really carefully think about who you surround yourself with.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And another thing that can influence how you define success is, I think, media,
Mm-hmm.
which we've talked about so many times, social media. But through social media, it's really easy to compare yourself to people you've never met, people who are in different circumstances than you are, people that you like barely keep in touch with, but like you kind of care what they
Mhm.
think, but also, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And also, like, I think it's easy to forget that like media only shows the results
Mhm.
and not the like journey to getting to the result.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And that goes back to what we said about like when I was talking about the Texas Rangers, like the result isn't the success, it's how you got there.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it, like you could get into an Ivy League and that's considered success for a lot of people, but if you cheated your way to get there,
Yeah.
is that success, or is that
Right.
just cheating your way to get there? You know what I
Right.
mean? So I think success definitely lies in like the journey to your end point or your goal,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like why you think about values, whether it was a moral journey, whether you did the things that made you happy to get there, whether you worked hard and stayed true to yourself and you grew along the way. I think that's what success is. I'm already learning things. Oh my gosh, I didn't think about this before.
Yeah.
But going back to social media, I think especially nowadays, like you'll see a lot of like graphics,
Mm-hmm.
like where that's the thing with social media. It's very
Visually appealing.
yeah, it's very visually appealing, and also it's made for people that don't have a lot of attention span. It's so easy to just scroll past a post and say and see like some kind of like quote unquote, it's inspirational, don't get me wrong, it's an inspirational quote, but it kind of oversimplifies the situation and makes success just look like this easily attainable thing that is just all sunshine, and the journey's not hard, and it's not difficult, and if you're not getting there, then you need to keep reevaluating yourself.
Right.
And I don't think it's like that, because that's the other problem with I think figuring out that's the other problem with judging whether like your success just based on whether you got to your end goal is it's so environmental, you know? And I feel like success is an internal measure, whereas like that goal is external, because it's not just based on whether you worked hard and you like stayed focused. It's also based on like if someone else, like it's based on the people around you, like the competitors that you have, or even I don't know, like whatever hardships are put your way. Like if anything that's personal happening to you, like family relationships, like if those aren't going well, you're probably going to see a dip in like your journey towards that goal. And I don't think it should be a point of blame for yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. But speaking of journeys, I think like success is easily defined in society by the quote-unquote traditional way, like the financially stable job, the high education, the income, and I think not a lot of people appreciate the quote-unquote non-traditional way, which is more like creative, more, I don't know, like less office work type deal.
Yeah. And I think part of it's because so like we live in a capitalist society, meaning that not to get too political, but we live in a capital society, at least in America, and so everything's very based on like the metric is how much money you make. Like how much money you make, how much are you spending, how are those balanced, do you own a house, why can you afford a house, you need to work harder, you need to get like this very traditional job, and I don't know, it's not all that, you know. Like I said, the billionaire's not necessarily happy if they're, you know, lying to everyone every day to get where they are.
Right.
So I think non-traditional paths are a very good point.
And especially because not everyone's made to go to college.
Yeah.
Not everyone's like built to be in like a white collar office job. You know what I mean? Like we have different strengths and we get put in a box essentially. Yeah. So
I think with the traditional and non-traditional path, it also comes like the whole question of timeline, because I think with the social media thing, like we tend to like judge ourselves on the same timeline, especially when you see people that you like knew in your past, like people from high school. You're like, oh, we came from the same place, why are they getting this job before I am? Or even like I see people who went to college in Texas, so their credits were able to transfer better. They're like graduating in 2 years. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong. But anyway, point being, timeline, that's a huge thing. Because success is so linked to your emotions, it's kind of like a negative feedback loop. Like success affects your like if you don't feel successful, you're probably going to feel more negative emotions. But because you feel more negative emotions, you can't be successful as much, because you're you know, then you start getting to the self-sabotage. You start like not being able to give everything your all, and then, you know, it just keeps building and building and building. And so I think finding a definition of success that works for you is really important. I know I'm rambling. Like, I feel like I've talked a lot, but I just want to say one more thing because that reminded me. So in my cognitive psychology class, we talked about, like, when you're studying for exams and stuff, there's this thing called, like doing homework, there's this thing called desirable difficulties. It's like the same concept as moderation, but essentially it's like when you're studying for an exam, you don't want to just, like, read all over your notes because that's too easy. Like, you're just, all you have to do is just, like, look at it and the answer's there. But you also don't want to, like, I don't know what could be, like, really hard for you to do, but
like rewrite all your notes.
Yeah, that's a perfect one. Like, you don't want to rewrite all your notes because that's too difficult. And so it's like finding that balance. And I think it's the same thing with the definition of success. Like, you want to find something that still motivates you, because like if you're just like, oh, success is like me just doing things, which, I mean,
it is a good metric of success. Like,
that's part of it, but it's not everything. And like then you're not going to be motivated to do anything. But you also don't want success to be like this thing that you can never achieve and you can never
Mhm.
feel successful, because it's such a draining thing to be part of.
Yeah.
We had a conversation off screen. I said negative feedback loop. I meant positive feedback loop, but of negative emotions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway,
A vicious cycle, if you must.
a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
They keep coming back. Love to be talking about vicious cycles.
I think kind of stemming off of desirable difficulties, not every success story is easy, like a flat path. I think there are hills that we have to climb, and like there are failures
Yeah.
that come with it. And like, not to be cheesy, but like failure is often a part of the journey to success.
It is.
So I think it's important to acknowledge your failures and
Yeah.
see how we can like turn it into like a more positive
Mhm.
thing, which we've kind of talked about in our past episodes. But
Yeah. And I don't like the word failure because I feel like it gets such a bad rap because of, it being like the binary opposite of
Yeah.
success. But like, I think events of failure, I guess what I would say are good, because maybe they're not desirable, but like if you have that kind of failure, it takes like, I feel like a lot of failure is kind of driven by like a mentality of go go go, and when you're go go going, you don't really like take a step back and like reconsider and think, oh, maybe I'm doing this wrong. So like having that failure can be helpful because it gives you like an opportunity to step back and say, what went wrong here? Let me fix it. And so it gives you a new perspective, which I think can be really helpful.
Yeah, and like people say failure is a learning opportunity. So if
It
you think
is.
about it, like you learn more. So like, isn't that a success? Like,
Yeah.
you are more wise. Like, I don't know. You
Yeah,
learn
I
more.
think it's helpful. And I mean, I think there's so many examples of
Oh, yeah.
like in pop culture and also just, I don't know, history that are examples of failures
For sure.
that ended up propelling success.
Yeah, like for example, like potato chips. I think this is the most popular example.
I've never heard that. What? Potato chips?
Oh, actually?
I've never heard that. What?
Okay, so I think someone was making fries and they wanted to be crispier. So they're like, oh, I'm going to make it really thin.
Oh.
And then it turned into potato chips. And that's how potato chips were invented.
Oh.
And it's like, another example is like penicillin. Someone was like looking for a wonder drug that can like cure diseases. And I think something didn't work. So then he like threw it out. And then like from there, like something grew, like penicillin grew.
Oh.
Or like,
whoa. That's crazy.
yeah, the whole concept of this penicillin thing is that it came from trash. But
I
it
did not know
actually
that.
helped so many people. And it was like literally,
Yeah, revolutionary?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I know.
That's wild.
And then the last example I had, which is kind of funny because they also start with P's,
Yeah, what?
is
3 Ps.
is Post-it notes.
I haven't heard about this one.
Okay, yeah. They were trying to make something sticky, like super sticky, but then they ended up making something less adhesive. But then they realized they can just like peel it off with like no like
Yeah.
issue, and they're like, this could be useful.
Crazy.
So those are my 3 Ps of failures that led to successes: potato chips, penicillin, and Post-it notes.
Yeah, and like think about it, if they didn't like do something wrong by accident,
Yeah.
they would have never known, and we would never be able to enjoy a tasty snack.
Yeah, or like people would still be having a hard time recovering from things.
But more
'Cause-
importantly, tasty. I'm just kidding.
Yes, tasty snacks is important. But yeah. Now that we've talked about how failure is often a part of the journey to success, I think it's good to like talk about measuring success.
So how do we measure success?
Like we started off with this question, right? Like how do we measure success? And I was like, I think it's dependent on the person.
Right.
But I think what I wanted to talk about is we should really focus on the journey, which you mentioned
Oh.
with the Ranger, like Texas Ranger example.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really important. I mean, the results are important to a certain extent, but what you gained from it.
It's more, yeah.
Yes. And this just sparked a little thought in my brain, is that when interviewers are like, what is your greatest accomplishment? Or
Mhm.
like, what was your professional setback?
Mm-hmm.
When you answer that, they want to see, like they want to hear what you learned from it.
Yeah.
And like how you dealt with it, and like because of the setback where you are,
Mm-hmm.
but like what are you learning from that setback, like where you are, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's really valuable to like focus on the journey
Mhm.
as well,
Mhm.
is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. The journey is what gives you perspective. It's what makes you a stronger person.
Mm-hmm.
If you have no journey, what is your life? It's just boring.
Yeah.
You're just doing things. You're just a little Among Us character. I don't know why I'm referring to him. But you're literally just doing your little tasks.
Yeah, that's true.
That's boring.
Yeah. And I think like one thing that just came to mind again with the journey thing is recently I had this really big presentation. It wasn't like a super big presentation, but I had a presentation in front of all my peers who knew a lot more about the field that I was in. And we had done 2 rehearsals right before, like 30 minutes before our presentation, and I did not feel ready. During the rehearsals, like I stuttered, I hesitated, I looked to my like mentors for help, and they were like, "No, you got this." But in my mind, I was like, "I'm a failure. Like I will never be able to get this done."
Yeah.
But then I had to sit 2 hours like listening to other people present without having to like being able to prepare myself. And then I got up there and I don't know what like came upon me, but I could talk very smoothly. I might have not covered all the things that I should have covered, but I talked without hesitation. I didn't shake as much as I thought I would. I made eye contact with other people. And I remember thinking, like right after my slides were done, I remember thinking, wow, like that was major improvement within like an hour and a half. Like, wow, I'm so proud of myself for that.
Yeah.
And like I remember coming home and I'd be like, Brenda, guess what? Like I feel so successful right now.
I know, and like that's the thing. Like I look at some people at the university and like just things that I'm part of. Like for example, I'm working at the lab, and I feel like people are just so like desensitized to what they're doing. I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Like that's why I also think failure is so important to like the journey, and like the journey itself is important because it helps you appreciate where you are so much more.
For
like
sure.
I feel like I am so appreciative of like being in the lab because I thought I wouldn't get there, and like because I worked hard to like get the opportunities that I do have now.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of told you about this before, and I think I've like slightly mentioned it on the podcast, but like this was like my entire like college essay, like you know the one, personal statement. This was what I talked about. It was success, which is where I think I first came across that quote from John Wooden. But this is such a big part of like why I believe the journey matters, and I think like this was a really pivotal time in my life, which sounds weird to say, but so competitive pianist growing up, I didn't really, how do I put this? Okay, so there was like this piece that I had been learning for a year, and like that was like, it meant a lot to me. It was like a 15-minute long piece. It was a huge deal, and like I loved that piece so much. Anyway, so I had been working on it for a really long time. It came to like this competition, and because like when you're growing up in that competitive environment, like, oh, it's so bad for your self-esteem and like your mental health, because you know
You're constantly put up against each other.
yeah, and that's like kind of your metric of success. And so this is why it's so pivotal for me. But I ended up not winning, and I really thought like that was going to be my time to win. And I remember feeling so unbelievably unmotivated afterwards. Like I was like, I don't think I'm going to play piano anymore. Like this is it. Like I can't bring myself to even like touch the keyboard, you know? And then eventually like I, got out of that. So like a couple weeks later, like I went back to the piano, like started playing. And then, but like my confidence was absolutely shattered. And so I remember this was, during COVID, so piano lessons were on Zoom. But I remember being like during a lesson with my teacher, and this was like the first time I'd played it for him after, that whole thing. And I remember like in the middle of it just completely messing up, like didn't like memory lost. And which is crazy because I'd been playing it for a year, you know what I mean? Like that should be muscle memory at that point. But I was just so in my head about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can get out of this. And then, kept practicing. Come to the another competition during COVID, so we had to record it. And I was terrified for this because when you're recording at home, like you can just keep doing it over and over. And so it's so stressful, like maybe even more stressful than competition in some ways. But I was so nervous, and like I kept recording and re-recording, and then eventually like there was this one take that I did, and it was after a while, like I had felt so unmotivated recording too because I like kept redoing it. And I remember like after that take, like that was the take I submitted, and I remember like after I finished, like there's this huge like grand finale. It's Valet Doberman by Franz Liszt, if you want to hear it. it's a great piece. But there's like this grand finale, and I remember after that, like, you know, after the final, like, what's it called? I don't know. The final note.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like wanting to cry just because I was so like proud of myself, and I really thought I couldn't do it. And I don't know. It's like a really special memory to me, which is so weird because it was so tough for me to like go through, but it made like that like victory of mine so much sweeter because it took me so much to get there, and like that's the thing that I remembered. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like winning competitions, that's not what I remember. I don't remember like someone saying good job to me. I remember that because it was so, that was a desirable difficulty. Like I feel like it taught me so much, and like it affected my outlook on success so much, and something I really treasure. Yeah, so there's this quote that I had put in that personal statement that I think kind of encapsulates, this like really encapsulates, I guess, how I feel about success. I wanted to read it because I'm proud of it. So it goes, success is found in the ends of the phrases, the nuances of dynamics, and the final notes of the piece. In life, it is found in the end goal, the careful way I attempt to approach my dreams, and the final touch. But most of all, it's found in the pauses in between passages, the lulls between triumphs, when it seems too difficult, too dangerous, too demotivating to continue on. That is when you truly realize your potential to reach your new high. I think, I don't know, like that just, why are you smiling
No,
at me
it's
like that?
good. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it really speaks to me, obviously, because I wrote it, but because it like reminds me that even when I feel like I'm not doing anything, even like when you take that rest day, like that's just regenerating your will to continue and your will to improve and keep improving and reach to that pinnacle.
Yeah, and like the last sentence where like when you're in the like trenches, that's when you truly realize your potential to reach your new high. Like that's so motivational. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like it's so easy to forget when you're deep down, like you're having such difficulties.
It's actually funny because I think after writing this essay, like I feel like my perspective on success has just changed. Like it was an introspection, like a essay of introspection for me, honestly, more than anything. And it's funny because I feel like that essay didn't really do well in my college applications, but it's so funny because even now, like that's the whole thing about success. Like I look at that and I'm like, no, that's successful to me because I enjoyed it and I feel like I learned a lot from it. So
I think it's a great essay. Well, I haven't read the essay, but I think it's a great little portion of the essay.
Yeah, I think that's the only good part.
I think just to wrap this episode up, we've talked about introspecting, reevaluating what our values are, like what our goals are. But also I think it's really good to reevaluate your success because success, like we said, is very circumstantial. Like it might differ one day to another, like where you are in 6 months versus 6 months past. So yeah, I think it's always good to like sit down a little bit, have a little thought, maybe even talk to yourself.
Yeah. Also, that just reminded me, like, I think something good about reevaluating success is like, even if you're not, everyone else around you is evaluating your success for you. That's just how society is. So you might as well do it for yourself to get like your own point of view, because at the end of the day, like, you know your values. No one else does, truly. And so I think it helps you like drown out those voices a little and like focus on what means the most to you.
Yes. Because we're all growing as people, day by day.
Yeah. Maybe not, I'm not growing vertically, but I am growing mentally.
Personal growth. I mean, personal emotional growth?
Yeah, personal emotional growth.
Yes. I'm also not growing physically, but
hey.
That's okay.
Yeah, what's height without a good mind, you know?
Exactly.
Put that on a poster.
By Vinda Verada.
Yeah. I think some final points would be to just remember. I mean, I feel like we said this in self-love and self-sabotage, but the numbers are not everything. The hard skills aren't everything, you know? On your resume, they don't ask for your hard skills only. They ask for your soft skills.
Yeah.
It's the same way here. Focus on the non-quantifiable. Think about the traits that make you a more successful person. Like, think about how you're diligent and how you're motivated and what keeps you going. Be able to recognize the small wins, because the small wins are what lead to those big wins, you know?
Yeah.
You can't just automatically jump there. And how boring would that be if you could?
Yeah.
I feel like that sounded so cliche, but it's so true.
It is very true. So I think we're gonna end with this quote I found on the Washington Post. But it goes like this. What if we nurtured our children to become the best version of themselves they could be and called that successful? Grade, salary, and job title need not apply. Because again, we're not defined by our accomplishments. We are defined by who we are.
Yeah.
So,
And I think we talked about it in like the self-sabotage episode maybe. I don't really remember which one, but it's generational, you know.
yes.
You're not like your values and stuff aren't going to change with the generation, but other people's perceptions
Mm-hmm.
of you are going to change. So stay true to yourself.
Yes. And every step you're taking, every small step you're taking is so meaningful.
It really
Mhm.
is. That's why we're the Small Step Society, because
Yes.
we're taking small steps to reach success.
Exactly.
And
Whatever
success-
success means to
And
you.
success has 3 S's.
Wow.
Whoa.
This is big picture for us.
It really is. That's crazy, actually.
That is crazy.
Anyway, is that all?
That is all.
Well, with that, you can find us on YouTube. You can see our faces on there. But you can also find the audio version of us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you can find podcasts except where you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Episodes every Sunday. Follow us on Instagram at Small Step Society Pod. Oh, rate us on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, please.
And-
Like the YouTube video.
Give us feedback on what you thought.
Give us the comments. Put in a comment in.
We can't wait to talk to you guys again next week.
Yeah, see you next Sunday.
Yes, we have great grand plans. So
Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh my gosh, we do. So
Yes.
exciting.
get ready.
Guest ready. What?
Whoa.
Sorry. Whoa, okay,
Whoa.
bye.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.